like to talk about the history of the Addison Post Office. The first post office in the area was established in 1839 in Dunkley's Grove. Charles H. Hoyt was the first postmaster and operated the office out of his business, the Buckhorn Tavern. The tavern and inn was located about 3 miles east of Salt Creek. The post office served settlements which later would become Addison, Bensonville, and Wooddale. Mail was brought from Chicago first by horseback and later by stagecoach, first along the Grand Avenue and later along the Elgin-Chicago Road, which today is Lake Street or Route 20. By 1842, after Addison Township was formed, a postal station is listed in federal government records as Addison. It was housed in the Addison House Inn on the west bank of the Salt Creek on the north side of Lake Street. From 1842 to 1853, there was a succession of many different postmasters and locations. In 1854, Heinrich Bartling, a school teacher for the West Lutheran School District, assumed the post. He moved the post office into his home above the school on May Street near Army Trail Road. The post office was only open between 4 and 5 p.m. as he did not want residents retrieving their mail to interrupt his teaching. The postal unit that Bartling used as a postmaster is now on display in the coach house of the Addison Historical Museum. The unit has small cubby holes for letters and larger ones for oversized mail. Bartling served as postmaster for over 50 years, which was the longest tenure of anyone for the position. In 1905, the new postmaster, William Marquardt, moved the post office to his general store on the northeast corner of Lake and Addison. The store was conveniently located near the train depot, making delivery of the mail much easier. In 1934, a new postmaster, Richard Laux, took over and moved the post office to 104 East Lake Street. Laux was only 23 when he was appointed to the job, making him one of the youngest to serve. In this 1939 photograph from the museum archives, he poses in front of the post office during the DuPage County Centennial Celebration. In the early 1950s, the old post office was moved to the old Village Hall and then later to 22 East Lake Street. In 1958, a new building at 236 West Lake Street was built to serve as the post office. The building was said to be 2 to 3 times larger than its predecessors. The building was leased by the federal government. According to the then postmaster, James Reuter, through this method of leasing a building from private enterprise, the profit from the building is subject to taxation and thus benefits the community. Only a decade later, local newspapers began reporting on plans to replace the post office because the building had, quote, become inadequate. Employees are working in cramped quarters. The location of the post office on Lake Street also had become an issue. Customer and employee parking was extremely limited. Increased traffic along Lake Street also created hazardous conditions. In December 1972, a mailman was hit by a car while crossing the street on his way to work. The number of mail delivery routes and the amount of mail handled also increased considerably during this time. In 1957, there were a total of 5 postal delivery routes, and by 1975, there were a total of 28. Although a site at Church and Lincoln Streets was purchased by the government in 1972, it was not until the early summer of 1975 that construction finally commenced. In April 1976, 7 years after initial plans were announced, Addison's new post office building located at 175 South Lincoln opened to the public. It was said to have triple the space of its predecessor and ample customer and staff parking. In a 1986 Addison Chamber newsletter, the Chamber thanks the new postmaster, Terry Cardwell, for increasing staffing and changing mail pickup and drop-off locations. It notes, the inside lines are moving nicely and delays are minimal. In March 1987, Addison got its first female postmaster with Annie O. Adams installed. The Addison Post Office continues to serve the local community at this location. It recently celebrated its 40th year of service in 2016. You can learn more about the history of Addison by visiting the Addison Historical Museum.